Hello, welcome back to Miss Dhias RD channel with me, Miss Dhias. In this video, I want to discuss an issue related to the use of English as medium of instruction in Indonesian higher education. Okay, and this issue will be covered in 5 sections in my video here. Let's start from the introduction. In this section, I just want to introduce you to a trend of internalization or globalization in higher education institution. These trends made higher education institution initiated English as medium of instruction program or classes in their university. This program is initiated because the institution aware of the needs of globalization or internationalization, which require mastery of English to join, collaborate, and impact in the global community. And specifically, this program is uh, preparing the students to face the global market so that they can compete with other employees around the world to get the job later on in more international era. Unfortunately, in Indonesia, there has not been exact macro policy which guided English as medium of instruction in higher education. The policy only comes from the meso level, not from the government level or macro level. The policies only happen in institution level, and that meso level policy used as a guidelines in the practice of IMAI in each institution, and each meso level policies will be different with another institution. Based on this introduction, I really eager to do kind of critical review toward some countries' EMI policies and practices. And after that, from that critical review, I want to give adjustment and also suggestion toward Indonesian EMI policymaker. Let's start from the critical review summary. In this section, I have already summarized two articles. Yeah, the first one is about English medium instruction in Vietnamese higher education, a road mapping perspective by Tree and Moskowski, 2019, and the second one is an analysis of Japan's English as medium of instruction initiatives with higher education, the gap between meso-level policy and micro-level practice by Aizawa and Gross 2018. Okay, from the first article from Tree and Moskowski 2019, they used road mapping framework to identify multifaceted dimension of IMAI design in Vietnamese government's language policies and its practices. The road mapping framework here is divided into 6 dimensions, such as role of English, academic disciplines, language management, agents, practices and processes, and international and globalization. Based on 6 dimensions, Tree and Moskowski try to identify the IMAI policies and practices in Vietnam. And the results show that IMAI policies in Vietnam promote practices of direct borrowing IMAI program from other higher education institutions from the native countries such as US and UK. And the second result is IMAI policies in Vietnam was lack of implementation of guidelines of language management, internalization strategies, and involvement of multiple agents at different levels. While in different article from Aizawa and Rose in Japan, they use case study in investigating on how the policy is being enacted into practice at university in Japan, and at two different policy level, at meso and macro level. And also based on that case study, the result indicate that there is a gap between macro, meso, and micro level policies. This gap classified into four categories. The first about the issues surrounding the language use as medium of instruction, and then issues stemming from student language proficiency, language-related challenges experienced by IMAI students, and the issues stemming from teacher language proficiency and IMAI training. So based on this two article summaries, I can do a critical review toward two articles. For the first articles, I can see that the use of road mapping framework really contributed to the detailed description of this article. And then, however, in the first article, the researchers did not specifically describe the example of IMAI implementation in Vietnamese higher education by mentioning any universities that had already implemented IMAI. So it seems that the explanation there is only presented the macro level of the policies, not the micro level. They only focus on the top-down policies, not bottom-up level. Okay, they see it from the top-down policies, from the macro policies to meso policies, but a little bit about the micro level practices. And then the success and the failure of IMAI in Vietnamese higher education is mostly caused by the less coordination from macro level to the micro level. And it can be said that there is a gap between the macro level and the micro level implementation toward English as medium of instruction in Vietnamese higher education. And the last, IMAI implementation in Vietnamese higher education had already supported by macro level policy, but need more specific guidelines to represent IMAI in meso and micro level. So that's my critical review toward the first article. And for the second article in Japan settings, based on my critical review, this article is good on describing the specific detailed data that related with the practice of micro level. There is students and about the students and teachers, practices, perception, and the language proficiency of them. The researchers has already presented it in the tables, use some tables, not only one table, some tables to illustrate it, the level of language proficiency of each components or participants in this research, and also their perspective toward the IMAI in Japan. And the second, the findings cannot be used to generalize the real condition of IMAI in Japanese higher education, because the limitation of sample use, it only used 7 lectures, yeah, and three three faculty members, yeah. This research also lack of information about IMAI program use, the role of agent of stakeholders, indirect data about principal method in examining the implementation of IMAI and assessment use, because this research is mostly talking about the micro level practices of IMAI in Japan. It's better to provide this practical data, because yeah, if we talk about previous article in Vietnamese higher education, yeah, they see the implementation of IMAI from the top down level, but in Japanese, in the second article in Japanese IMAI implementation, the researchers use bottom-up uh, data to explain or to present the article. So they have different point of view in seeing the policy and practices of IMAI in their countries. And both of these result of research can be taken as consideration and suggestion for the creation of policies of IMAI in Indonesia later on. From that critical review, I can take some points to be discussed. The first, education policy in Indonesia does not specifically mention IMAI. In Peraturan Presiden number 63 2019, it only mentioned about the use of Bahasa Indonesia as medium of instruction. Maybe this is because of English in Indonesia only has a role as a global or international language, not as a second language or first language even. And then, although IMAI in Indonesia higher education institution does not have any official or government policy in the implementation, some private and public higher education institutions have already implemented IMAI and has their own policies in the meso level as their guidelines. It is supported by meso level agents such as head of the institution, vice head, international affair office coordinator, and also lecturers and students. Also, in Indonesian higher education institution, IMAI is mostly used in hard applied courses. What the meaning of hard applied courses? This kind of courses is mostly practical courses such as engineering, technical, and then business, accountancy, that related to vocational subject. Okay, and the courses, hard applied courses, commonly serve as English as specific purpose courses. Based on Symbolon, the name of the courses using IMAI is mostly use the term, for example, English for engineering, English for business, English for accountant. It means that English is used in specific purposes, not used as a general in a general purpose. So another thing that can be noticed is the types of IMAI implementation in Indonesia. At least has 5 types. The first one, IMAI on international dual degree programs, IMAI on international single degree program, IMAI on regular program, IMAI for international exchange student, and postgraduate IMAI programs. Based on that types, there will be different approaches, methods, strategies, assessment, and other specific things related to the program that may be different from one another. And some of the university require the student to join program to pass TOEFL, at least passing of 400 until 500 points of TOEFL. So it's as a requirement to join international or bilingual class using IMAI in the Indonesian higher education institution. Unfortunately, because of the limited English proficiency of the student and lecturers, IMAI classes are mostly conducted in partial English instruction. So what the meaning of English, partial English instruction? It means that the use of English as medium of instruction is not 100%. The proportion of the use of language is not 100%. It adjusted to the condition of the classes. It can be 50% for English instruction and 50% for Bahasa Indonesia, or maybe less than 50% English and the rest is Bahasa Indonesia. IMAI, as a way of approaching internationalization and globalization of higher education institution, also has some opportunities such as improving students' cognitive achievement, motivating students and teachers to learn the language, give students and teachers more exposure to English and more chances to acquire it. But beside the opportunities, IMAI implementation in Indonesia, of course, has some challenges. And the main challenge was relatively about the low level of English proficiency or competency of students, lecturers, and staff. By seeing that challenge, higher education institution can give more English courses for them or do kind of preparation on their language, their target language, English, so that they can follow and support the class maximally. Another solution, partial IMAI can be chosen to prepare IMAI implementation. And another challenge is it is often found a gap between policymaker and lecturers in the implementation of IMAI. It happens almost in some countries which are non-native of English. As I've reviewed before, we face this, the Vietnam IMAI face this challenge also, and also the Japanese. So yeah, it's common to have this challenge in country of non-native speaker of English. Yeah, when the policies maker and the practitioner have wide gap about the IMAI implementation. Unfortunately, the gap created less effective implementation of IMAI. The teacher have their own interpretation in teaching, especially about the use of language in the classroom when teaching. I mean, the percentage or the proportion of language use. Some of the teachers or lecturers use more English, another use more Bahasa Indonesia, and vice versa. Yeah, and then based on the discussion above, I can conclude 6 points here. The first one is IMAI implementation in Indonesia higher education institutions has started from bottom up level. Although there is no specific policy from the government, from the macro level, the higher education institution keep on developing their international or bilingual program using IMAI. The third, IMAI mostly used in hard applied courses taught in English as specific purpose. And the fourth, the language proportion in classes, the use of English and Bahasa Indonesia is still based on lecturer interpretation and adjustment. This is because of less guidance from the policies, so that the teacher have their own interpretation. The fifth point is about the use of TOEFL to or as the prerequisite to join IMAI classes. And the sixth, the last, IMAI faces challenges about the inexistence of macro level policies, low level English proficiencies, and the gap between policies and practices. Based on that conclusion, I can suggest some points to the policymaker, in this case, Indonesian government, to first, to make specific policies related to IMAI with clear guidance for the implementation. Second, to use road mapping framework in mapping the policies to make it more detailed in terms of roles of language, academic discipline, language management, agents, preparation and policy and processes, internationalization and globalization. Third, as a beginning, it is suggested to take partial IMAI as a form, while preparing English proficiency of all agents in bridging the program. It can be used, the institution can use English courses, a simple English courses to prepare it. And the fourth suggestion is to avoid gap between policies and practices. It is necessary to have regular communication among policymakers and practitioners on the field. Okay, that's all the discussion that I want to share to you. And now I'll really need your help to share. Do you have any experience in teaching in my classes? Maybe you can share what are the challenges during the teaching, and then if you as practitioners or maybe a meso level policymaker, if you have any suggestion to our government, Indonesian government, related to IMAI implementation, please please comment on the comment box under this video. Your comment will be really appreciated. And yeah, thank you for watching this video in detail, and please subscribe to support this channel in sharing insight about students and campus life. Thank you very much.